Everyone tells you need a low attack IVs for PvP, but almost nobody explains you why. Are IVs actually important? Is rank 1 always the best? Why do some players want actually high attack Pokemon? And what on earth are breakpoint, bulk points, and functional hundos? By the end of this video, you're gonna understand PvP IVs more than most players currently. So today we have an entire guide towards PvP IVs for 2026. This is up to date. This is kind of everything that you need to know, and there's a lot to know and there's a lot to understand here. So if you're new to the channel, which this video is mainly geared towards for people who are not as familiar with stuff, but honestly, I do think that a lot of people can actually get some benefits from this video, even if they already play PvP for a long time. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. Only half of viewers are subscribed. There's a lot of content, especially for newer players, but also just generally for everyone coming up towards Pokemon GO PvP. Definitely stay tuned for that, but let's start off here with the beginning of it. Where do PvP IVs matter and where not? And the first thing is, PvP IVs are mainly a thing for Ultra League and Great League. We're going to talk about why this is the case as well. They're not so much for the Master League. For Master League, you kind of always want 15-15-15 Pokemon. The main reason why you want to have low attack Pokemon, which we talk about in the next slide afterwards, is because in Ultra League and the Great League, you are capped to a certain CP level of 2500 or 1500. And this is only where really PvP IVs matter. So for Master League, you always want to have the best ones, which are 15-15-15. Sometimes it's fine to actually don't have 15-15-15 Pokemon as well for the Master League, which we talk about later. But also sometimes for the Ultra League, there are times where you don't want to have a lower attack stat, which you always hear about. Here, for example, for the Jellicent, 6, 14, 15 is what you kind of want to have, because it's the only kind of way this Pokemon reaches the 2500 CP. So this is kind of where IVs matters. There's some exceptions basically where you don't want to have fully low attack, and for the Master League you really don't want to have a low attack. You want to have full attack stats there for any kind of Pokemon. So why do you want to have low attack for Great League and Ultra League? This has to do basically with the CP in Pokemon Go. And for that, we kind of need to understand on how CP is calculated in Pokemon Go. Trust me, I'm not going to go for like a math test here. I very much explain it very briefly here. So first up, this looks scary. You don't need to really understand it too much there as well. This is kind of on how the base attack is calculated in Pokemon Go, which is kind of very similar, not the same, but it's very similar for the defense as well as for the HP. It's a bit different, like all the numbers are different as well towards things, but it's kind of a similar way it's get calculated. In this case, for example, here, you take 7/8 of the higher attack stat of a Pokemon from the main CS games, those stats, and 1/8 of the lower stat Pokemon. For example, Jolteon is very much a special attacker, so the higher one is going to be the special attack, the lower one going to be the normal attack, and there's a weight to them. So the higher stat is more important than the lower stat. This weight is, for example, a little bit different for the defense stat, which you don't need to really care about. This is just generally for you to explain, okay, this is how things are getting calculated. There's a base attack stat in Pokemon, like in Pokemon Go basically, that's getting calculated like this. The speed has to do with it as well. That's why you see a lot of times speedy Pokemon not doing too well in the Great and Ultra League. That's why you have a lot of slow Pokemon there, because they actually impact the attack. And why impacting the attack and why making the attack higher is so negative for the Ultra League and for the Great League, so we're gonna take a look at afterwards. So this is basically the actual stat that you can calculate with it, but this is not actually the stat that you have in game. The stat that you have in game is the base stat, which you got just calculated basically with the formula prior, plus the IVs of the certain Pokemon. This is where the topic of the video kind of comes in play, because this is where you change things. The base attack, the base defense, the base stamina is based on the Pokemon. It doesn't change. You can't have any influence with that. Where you can have influence is going to be the attack, defense, and the stamina. This is the IVs that you can catch Pokemon with. And here, for example, with a 15 attack Pokemon, or like 15 defense and 50 HP, you're going to add those numbers to the base attack that you just calculated prior. You don't need to do any of those math. This is just on how the game is working. And this is kind of what I want to explain to you. This is why other Pokemon have, like, with certain IVs, better CP than others, for example. This is what's getting added on top of it. Here, this is the example of Blissey. But also, this is not even this is not the actual stats in game. It's getting more complicated, which you don't need to really know. But basically, there's a modifier as well that's kind of get put on top of it as well, that kind of drops again the actual attack, defense, and stamina stat. That's why you don't have a Blissey with actually 511 HP in Pokemon Go. But that's kind of on how things are. So like, you're going to have a little bit lower stats generally at level 50 with those Pokemon. But that is basically it for that one. We don't really need to care too much about it. Where this is now important, this is why we had to kind of go through all of this mad stuff, is the actual CP formula and why low attack is better. And this is what we're going to see here next. We're going to have here basically the CP formula. And what we see here is how the CP is getting calculated for level 40 and for level 50 in Pokemon Go. And what we see here is what I marked already. The green one is the attack stat, the blue one is the defense stat, and the pink one is the stamina stat. And what you see in yellow is what changes things. You see for both a defense as well as stamina, a multiplier by basically 0.5. It's like you kind of halve the importance of both defense and stamina, which you don't have on attack. So for the actual CP formula, attack is twice as important and influential compared to defense and stamina. Which means as well though, and this is where PvP IVs come in play, if you have 0 IVs in the attack, this is kind of cutting off more than if you have 0 IVs in defense and 0 IVs in HP. They're basically the IVs that you put on top, which you just saw in the slide prior, on top of the base stat, are more influential from the base attack than for the other two values, because we see in the formula here that the others are kind of halved in terms of importance. And so basically what we have here now is the explanation why PvP IVs are the way they are. Attack is just so influential that you if you have one attack point, you could get at the same time basically one extra defense and one extra stamina point under a certain CP level. And this is why this is only a thing for Ultra League and Great League, is because you're capped at a certain CP level. And the important thing and what you want to do is you want to go you want to get as many stats in total without going over 2,500 or 1,500 CP. We're going to talk about this a little bit more as well, but when is it really important? Because this is a thing as well where a lot of people ask me. A lot of people ask me, okay, I have a rank 500 Pokemon. Is it still going to be good or not? And this is something that we kind of want to answer here today. Because what is actually important to know is that for bulky Pokemon, those IVs are actually way more important than it is for less bulky Pokemon. And we can see it here basically with an example. This is Bastion here. You see Bastion on the left side with 15, 15, 15. So it's kind of the number one, the best kind of IVs generally in Pokemon Go. That's the highest you could get. And then you see PvP IVs on the right side. This is going to be 0, 15, and 14. So you have a 0 attack, and you see the difference here. You're going to need 12 more levels, which is way more expensive, but you have an overall stat product, which you see there as well, that is 200 less basically if you have 15 attack, which means basically you have here a defense stat that is 18 points lower and you have a stamina stat that's 10 points lower, but basically the difference in the attack is just 6 stats. That's all. So you basically, for the 6 attack that you have less for a bulky Pokemon like Bastion, you gain a total of 18 defense and 10 stamina, so 28 points for the 6 attack. This is where the difference is kind of made, because if you're going to take a look at Morpeko now, on the other hand, where we have a 15, 15, 15 and a 1, 15, 15, which is on the left side like a bad rank 1 and on the right side a rank 1, 1, you see that the difference isn't really there. For example, you're going to gain with 15 attack around 5 more attack points, but you're going to only lose around 3 more defense and only 4 more stamina. So you have 5 compared to then more around like 7 or 8 different 8 or 9 different stat points there. So the difference is not as big at all compared to Bastion. And the same goes for the level. The level is barely changing. And this is where you kind of need to understand on how IVs work. It is very important for bulky Pokemon that have a high level, like that need a high level, for example, here like Bastion, to have very good IVs for PvP, like PvP IVs, like here, while it is absolutely kind of not important at all for Pokemon that are very squishy to have good PvP IVs, because it barely changes anything for them. And this is something that you really need to know, because like this is gonna make it way easier for you. Because if you have, for example, even an Umbreon, which is not really a very bulky Pokemon, it's very solid because of the type itself, but if you have a Pokemon like this, you're going to be able to just build this even if you have a rank 500 or whatever, because the difference in the bulk that you're gonna lose is not going to be as much as well compared to like those really bulky Pokemon. And there's better examples here as well. How much difference does it actually make is like the next question, of course. Like how much is it actually going to change in terms of what we can do here? Like how much is going to be a difference here? And this is going to be something I kind of want to showcase here on the Zoom roll. Not Bastion, because Bastion is too polarizing. Azumarill is a very neutral Pokemon that's also bulky, that needs XL candy basically in order to function well. You have the XL one on top, and we have the not PvP version on the bottom. You see the average rating on the right side drops by 20, which is quite significant. You have 3 extra losses and 1 extra win, which is against other Azumarills because you wouldn't CMP ties, which you're going to talk about later as well in this video. But you have here losses against Corsola, Corviknight, as well as Celio. And those you don't have if you have a better IV Azumarill. And so it's quite important there. But if you're going to take a look here, for example, at the Morpeko that we just had, here we have the 115-15 compared to the 15-15-15. You still have like a 17 or whatever average difference there, but you're actually going to have an extra win from having the higher attack compared to the lower one, which is kind of funny. Like, you wouldn't really expect that. But like, there's a difference. Basically, yes, you're going to have not as much HP left, which is basically the average. It's like kind of how much HP you have left after you beat a Pokemon. But what you're going to have here is you're going to have just still some very much the same matchups, which is kind of interesting. While Azumarill is going to lose some, Morpeko doesn't lose as many because the difference between the stats are not as much because they are not XL Pokemon. And also, XL is not really the right time for this. It's not a bulky Pokemon. There are also very bulky Pokemon that are not XL, for example, where it also has a big influence on what kind of IVs you have. So, there's more towards IVs though, and there are breakpoints, for example, that they can get by having certain IVs. What are breakpoints? Breakpoints are basically where the fast attack that you have is doing more damage against certain Pokemon. And here, for example, we have Shadow Sableye. And if you have a bit of an attack investment on Shadow Sableye, there's certain matchups that you're going to be able to win now, which you wouldn't win otherwise. So here, it's kind of showcases here the 0-15-15, which is the best rank 1 version basically, but the 6-12-13 is actually going to be able to beat quite a few other Pokemon. And if you want to know kind of on where you're going to be able to find those breakpoints and bulk points, if you go, for example, in the battle tab on PvPoke and go for like one Pokemon and another Pokemon, in this case here on the right side, you see the matchup against Azumarill. For example, here it says there that the Sableye is going to be able to do against the highest defense Azumarill with 6 in attack and 12 in the other 12 and 13 in the other stats. You're going to be able to do 1 extra damage with the Shallow Claw against Azumarill. And that's kind of nice information because especially in the 2-shield scenario, this can matter. If you do 1 more extra damage every single fast move, that can have a huge influence in a battle. And this is where a lot of people actually like Shadow Sableye with a bit of an attack investment. We have the same kind with bulk points. It's kind of the same thing, but that the opponent's fast move does 1 less damage. You can find this the same kind of way. Here, for example, Azumarill, if you have a 0-15-1 Azumarill, which needs more level ups, for example, which has a very high defense level there as well, you're going to be able to take 1 less damage from a Thunder Shock from Morpeko. That's just an example. You would never want to have that. They're only very specific ones that we kind of want to do that, but this is just basic example there. If you best buddy, by the way, Pokemon, this can influence both of it. Like, there are certain Pokemon that you can best buddy and get to different kind of levels and different kind of IV spread that can help out in certain kind of ways. But it's very much, depending on the meta, depends on a lot of things. So I wouldn't really go too much into that. If you want to see a video, by the way, towards best buddies, I've seen people asking for that. Let me know down below as well. Just generally, any kind of guide that you want to see, let me know down below. What are you interested in? What do you want to see? I'm always listening to my community. So yeah, feel free to do that. And let's move on to the next one. What are rank 1 Pokemon? We talked a little bit about it, but we haven't really talked about it. What makes a rank 1 Pokemon a rank 1 Pokemon? It's basically the highest potential stat product. This doesn't mean, by the way, that the attack is always 0. Here we have the Sableye, where we have 0-15-15, and we see the overall stats are 1898. This is as high as it gets. There's no other IV combination that has the higher average stat product, basically. And what we're going to have here as well, though, like as I said before, they're not for every Pokemon it's going to be 0 attack, because for Greninja, for example, you actually want to have 3 attack, which gives you the most amount of stats on this Pokemon. This is the rank 1 IVs for it, because it gets you. It's basically between trying to get as close as possible to 1500 CP while maximizing the stats that you can have on your Pokemon. That's kind of the goal of a rank 1 Pokemon. But are those rank 1 Pokemon always stronger? And the answer is no. They are not. We're going to take a look here at the rank 13 Trevenant on the right side and the rank 1 Trevenant on the left side. I actually have the rank 13 one because I hunted specifically just for this Pokemon with this IV spread. I was super lucky to get this one. But here's the difference. We're going to take a look at the stats. We see that the overall stat product is 15 lower for the rank 13. 15 lower, this is not that crazy. We have a bit more defense, 1.2 more defense on our Trevenant. We have 1.4 more attack on our Trevenant on the right side. But we're missing out on 4 stamina. So we basically have a 0 point something difference, I think like 0.5 difference between the stats of both Pokemon, somewhere around there. And this is kind of all that's the difference. It's a rank 13. It's very close to like the rank 1 anyway. But the rank 13 actually always outperforms the rank, the rank 1. The rank 13 is basically always better. Because you have a lot of breakpoints and a lot of bulk points. Here we're going to take a look at the breakpoints. We do more damage against Feraligatr. We do more damage against Shadow Feraligatr. We do more damage against Malamar. We do more damage against the Wigglytuff with our fast move. We have a breakpoint there. And that is not only it, we also have more bulk points. Here are the bulk points that we have here in the middle as well. We have a bulk point against the Powder Snow Lone Ninetales, against Shadow Sableye, against Shadow Celio, and against Talonflame. We take less damage from those Pokemon. And this is something that is kind of crazy because it kind of showcases that rank 1 doesn't mean they are the best. What you're always going to have though as a rank 1, and this actually bite me before because I brought this Trevenant to a regional and actually lost the regional because of this. I think it was in the semis or something with it. And I think I lost because of this Pokemon basically. I brought my Trevenant, but my Trevenant has 4 less 4 less HP. And because of those 4 less HP that was back in there, I think I got locked on down from a Registeel before. I think it was against Weedle or something even. So I lost multiple battles actually in the one region I brought this Trevenant because of the HP stat. This is all very specific. Like at the end of the day, like there's gonna be like, we're gonna take a look at what you kind of have to take from this video anyway later on. At the end of the day, generally speaking, it is fine to go for a good IV Trevenant and you're gonna be okay. But I just want to showcase that not every single time the rank 1 is the better Pokemon. And this also has something to do with the next one, the CAP or the CMP issue. CAP means Charge Attack Priority. This is the actual official term, I think, towards that, which you have to say in like the regional streams and whatever. But CMP is more what people are saying the entire time, which is Charge Move Priority, which means if you go for a charge move at the same time as the opponent, it depends on, like it kind of says on which Pokemon goes first. And this depends on which Pokemon has the higher attack stat. And this is where you kind of come in clutch here. This is going to be a graphic, which you also can find on PvP, by the way, with the potential attack ranges of Pokemon. So you see on the left side, the number is going to be the minimum. Like this is the bare minimum that a Pokemon has an attack. That is going to be the one that you very likely have at the rank 1 IVs, kind of. And then you have on the right side, the maximum attack a Pokemon can have. And so you see here some ranges. Like ranges are around 10 attack a lot of times. And for example, you have here a Pokemon like Sableye, which is below the Talonflame, but could actually with higher attack IVs win a CMP tie or CAP tie against the opponent's Talonflame if it's a rank 1. It's not very close or far away from it. But you can even go a bit crazier because look at this. Talonflame is at number 9. Quite high attack there, and then we have Ludicolo at number 14. That's quite a bit lower, 5 less attack. We see it here as well. We have around 5.5 less attack even compared to the Talonflame. But if you have a certain Ludicolo with a ton of attack investment, you actually would be able to win those CMP ties against those Pokemon. So does this mean you should always go for a super high attack Pokemon in order to have a higher chance of getting your charge move first? No. Because what you see here as well is that the overall stats of Ludicolo on the left side and on the right side, there's quite a big difference. Like it's like kind of a 10% difference in terms of how much bulk you have. And if you take 10% more damage every single time that you have this Pokemon out, that's not going to help you in the long run. But there are certain kind of Pokemon that are very close to each other where it makes sense to take a look if you want to have a bit of an attack investment. And those are, like the list here can help you out with that. And generally speaking, I do think that especially for Pokemon that are very common in the meta, personally, I like to have a bit of an attack investment on those as well. So, I basically needed the last thing here is functional hundos and functional rank 1s. What do I mean with that? There are certain Pokemon where there are certain IV spreads that are actually the exact same. How can this happen? This is something we didn't take a look at earlier, but it's part of how the HP stat is calculated in Pokemon Go. It's the same kind of formulas that you are up there, but they're always rounded. And they're always rounded up, basically, as far as I know. But if there is just the tiniest difference in the HP stat, in the IVs itself, it can happen that the stamina stat is actually the same between two Pokemon, even though one has higher IVs on the stamina stat than the other one. A common example is Umbreon. I actually have a rank 2 Umbreon, but the rank 2 Umbreon has the exact stats as the rank 1 Umbreon, just the CP is different. The CP is getting calculated differently compared to the stats themselves, but as you can see here, the stamina on both of them is 161. There's no difference. The overall stat product is the exact same, and both of them do exactly the same. It's the exact, like, there's no difference in battle between those Pokemon, even though they have very different CP. Like they're even 3 different. They're basically, which is kind of interesting just to see that. A lot of Pokemon can. It's only for HP, by the way. The other move, like the attack as well as defense, is not going to get rounded. It's just the HP that is a rounded stat because it's shown and displayed in game as well. So it's kind of just a funny thing here. This can happen as well, by the way, for the Master League, where we can talk about here as well. Like sometimes there are some Master League Pokemon that are not hundos, like this Dialga Origin on the left side, which has a 15, 15, 14, but they are actually having the exact same stats as the Hundo, which we see on the right side, which is 15, 15, 15, and has the exact same stats. This is just an anomaly for the stamina stat. It's only the stamina stat, nothing else. So sometimes 14 stamina can be actually quite helpful there. So, and now we're here at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little of a longer video. I have timestamps in there anyway for you, so you should be able to follow it easier and faster. Attack has the most amount of impact of the CP in Pokemon Go. That's something that you learned today. This is why you have PvP IVs. This is why you want to have low attack for most of the Pokemon, because it allows you to squeeze in more bulk. But also, IVs matter more on bulky Pokemon. It depends on the Pokemon that you have on if those IVs matter or not. And that's important to know as well. And it's sometimes not good to have perfect IVs for PvP. We saw it with bulkpoints, we saw it with breakpoints, we saw it with CMP. Especially for very common Pokemon, at least personally, I like to have a tiny bit of an attack investment on them, like 1, 2, maybe 3 attack on them, because this ensures me to win CMP against the same Pokemon. For example, I have a Talonflame with 4 attack, which I really enjoy because I win CMP tie against most of those Pokemon. But yeah, this is kind of it. I would say for most Pokemon though, unless there's like the Bastion, the Azumarill of this world that take a ton of XL Candies and a ton of Stardust, I think if you have like a solid rank Pokemon, you're going to be totally fine. A lot of times having a little bit of attack investment can even help you in certain situations. And I hope you learned a lot in this video. And if you did, the best thing that you have to do is you should follow and subscribe to this channel here and like the video. And this is going to be it for me today. Let me know down below what you want to see next. See you then. Bye-bye.